Welcome to Module 4 of the Risk Management Online Training from Value Transformation. Today, we're going to talk about risk analysis. In this module, we are going to discuss a number of approaches to assessing project risk, all of which will help us to put a plan together to make sure that the project has the highest probability of success possible. After we have identified the risks to which our project may be subjected, we will need to prioritize them. Not all risks are equal. To ensure that the project focuses on the truly damaging risks, we must match the time allocated to those risks. Some things that happen in a project can be easily sidestepped or addressed. It is not an effective use of time to dwell on these and disregard the truly damaging risks. Analysis happens after we have identified the risks that can go wrong with our project. Those things that will adversely impact any of the project areas or the objective of the project in such a way as to be an obstacle to the desired outcomes. Assessment allows us to focus on those risk areas that can cause the most damage. That will allow us to determine elimination and mitigation approaches as well as metric information to know when the risk is imminent. The reason for risk assessment should be fairly evident. The primary objective is to analyze the impact in such a way that we understand what the most critical risks are that will allow us to determine some controlling mechanisms or alternative paths. We want to know how much damage each risk will pose to the project, to our product, or if we have a service, and ultimately our organization. Where possible, that risk assessment will be quantified tangibly in monetary or financial impact. We're going to pore over our list and consider the likelihood of the risk in our risk list of occurrence and the severity, as well as the dependencies regarding the risk. In other words, if this goes wrong, what are the consequences on depending actions downstream? Recall from the first module how risk and dependencies work together. We are concerned with what collateral damage comes from the risk. Not all can be seen immediately when the risk occurs or when the problem that the risk represents occurs. To analyze the risks, we will delve back into the known knowns and known unknowns from the earlier slides. We will look into things similar in nature to the item under consideration. Are there similar systems from which we can learn, such as material or operations risks, that we can extrapolate to this situation? Do we have lessons learned from previous projects, previous products, previous services, or approaches that we have taken in the past? Our team experiences can help us understand the consequences when something may go awry. We will need people that can see systemic impact of the potential risk to uncover the true severity. We can conduct tests, and not just on the product, to ascertain if our values or what we believe to be true are actually true. We can use tools like Monte Carlo analysis on the schedule to understand what the variation in the schedule would be and understand the risks associated with that. We can question our subject matter experts and talent to understand the consequences and probability associated with specific risks. Our project plan contained risk. Communications plan, risk management plan, all of these things can have some risk or pose some threat to the project. Consider a project that does not have an escalation plan defined, for example. Qualitative techniques allow us to create a hierarchy or a filter of the risk based on probability and severity. Qualitative techniques are usually a little easier to move through since we're not producing a specific dollar amount associated, but we're looking at the potential magnitude of the problem. Those risks that pose the most serious threats may be candidates for further action that we will discuss in the quantitative analysis section. An example of qualitative risk management is demonstrated in this matrix. The columns represent the probability of the failure coming to pass. From the left to right, the probability decreases. Leftmost, highly probable, in this case frequent. Rightmost, very unlikely. The rows represent the severity. The top row is the most damaging, and the bottom row is the least impact. The risks reduce and the probability for each risk are assessed until the entire table is populated. Note the sequence of the numbers. The top two risks are catastrophic and occur frequently and are very likely. The next in the priority is the critical failure that happens frequently. 1, 2, 3. These account for the most damaging risks to the project. The next in the severity list is number 4 at likely and critical. Then we move down, down toward risk 5, which is moderate in impact but happens frequently, and so on. The risk that caused the least amount of harm is number 20, negligible impact and not very likely to happen. Here's yet another example of risk prioritization method. In this case, it was based on probability and severity. We score place in the risk table. There are many other severity levels we can use. In any instance, we are working to categorize the risk against the severity and probability of occurrence to gauge effect. Quantitative is a little different. Using this approach, we want to identify specific resulting impact of the risk that comes to fruition in a tangible way. That tangible way is via dollars that equates to the risk impact on the company. The more money or higher the dollar amount loss, the greater the risk. In this instance, we are working to identify the impact to the company's bottom line. If the risk is severe enough, we may decide not to take on the project. Knowing the economic impact of the risk helps us make an informed decision about the money invested in the project. Knowing the dollar amount also provides us with an estimate of the contingency monies required should we take the project on. Contingency budgets will be discussed later. We want to know how much these risks will cost us, should they come to pass. To do so, we have the same approaches as we do with qualification, only this time focused on deriving the specific costs that will be incurred should what is only a potential come to bear on our project and our organization. We can begin to understand the monetary impact of the risk on our project using many of the techniques we use for qualitative analysis, such as interviews and subject matter expert discussions. However, we also have historical record and modeling and simulation that can help us understand just how much money is at stake regarding the risk. In summary, we have many ways to analyze the impact of each specific risk and depending consequences of the risk. This includes any risk interactions. When we have concluded the analysis phase, we should have a list of risks. Some of those risks are qualified as a filter to understand what is the more pressing issue of concern. Some of the risks will be quantified by dollar amount, and those will likely be the most serious or more probable of the qualified risks, so we are able to see just how much is at stake and make a rational decision for the project. Contact Value Transformation personnel for additional training and coaching on the topic of project risk management and many other topics related to project management and product development. We can come to your facility or an off-site of your choosing. We are available also on the weekend. Thank you.